Today, it's not about me. We're going to talk to one of our members, and he is just fantastic. I admire him a lot. He inspires me to continue purchasing properties, and we talk, from time to time. And every time I talk to him, he's doing something more, and it's very inspiring. And I think you guys will be inspired as well. And his name is Robert. So if we can bring him on.
Hello.
Hey, Robert.
Hi, Jody. How are you doing?
How are you tonight? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, doing great. Doing great.
Awesome.
Enjoyed listening to your tale as you went through all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about you. How did you find lifestyles, and were you a real estate investor and then came to lifestyles, or how did all that
I kind of had a long sordid tale on that. I was a partner in an apartment complex back in the 90s. For a short period of time, got out of that, did a whole bunch of fix and flips about 12 years ago, stopped doing that in '08, and then joined Lifestyles in October of 18. Bought my first house in April 8th, 2019. Since that time, I bought a total of 9 houses, sold 3 of them. So I have 6 right now, and I've got a duplex I'll be closing on next week.
Wonderful. Okay, perfect. And so, what is your background? What do you?
Well, yeah, I've got my degree from college is in finance. I'm actually an appraiser by profession, and the interesting thing about lifestyles that we don't see as an appraiser, we come in and we look at it one day. Here's what it is today. We don't worry about tomorrow. We don't worry about next year. So the distinction there is lifestyle shows you the movie. Here's what's going to happen over time. Here's the change. You talk about the 5 ways you're going to make money off of it. As an appraiser, we don't look at it after debt. We don't look at the tax ramifications. We don't look at the leverage component or anything else. It's just that income basis. So it's been an interesting learning process going from the picture to the movie.
Awesome. I like that, the way that you put that. That's amazing. So, okay, so let's go to the next slide. I'm trying to see if I can see it on my computer. Sorry, one second. Okay. So today we're going to talk about, I don't know, what number property is this? I lost count for you.
This was my 9th property I bought. I closed on it back in November of last year. It didn't need a whole bunch of renovation, and actually we didn't paint it. That was the color it came in, and it just didn't need to be repainted. Didn't need a whole lot, but it was over the Christmas holidays, so it actually ended up not being ready till the first week of January. It was about 2.5, 3 weeks of work spread over 6 weeks.
Okay. Perfect. And it's a 3-bedroom, 2 bath.
3-bedroom, 2 bath, 1-car garage.
Okay, so perfect, little, like a bread and butter, a little bit older.
Yeah, bread and butter. If you'll notice, the one thing that's kind of interesting is you can see the air conditioner units in the living room when they're on the left, and then 2 of the bedrooms. The typical deal is let's put a central unit in. Over half the houses in this neighborhood still have window units. So it was very accepted in that area, and there's no reason to go through that process and the expense associated with it.
Okay, so you kept in line with what everyone else was doing in the neighborhood, which is something that we teach. You don't want to over rehab or under rehab. So you said rehab was very small. Let's look at some pictures. If we can go to the next slide. So when I looked at this, I'm like, what did you do? what exactly?
Countertops, sink, and new pools was really, and a couple of the drawers needed realignment, but that's minor stuff. And then put a new light over the sink. Literally, that was all it needed. I mean, and it didn't interior paint.
And did you do this work yourself, or did you hire?
Oh no, okay. I write checks. I don't do the work.
Smart man. Okay, good. So you even already had a tile shower. Wow. So
no, it was, like I said, did not need a whole bunch of work. One of the things I've had to do in every house, but this one is do new flooring. This one didn't need it.
Great.
So that was even nice. Like I said, it was a very minor rehab. You can tell we went from the orange to the gray.
Perfect. Okay. So let's look at the numbers. This is the important part, right? So you purchased it for and some change, and it appraised, since you're an appraiser, appraised at 180. So that's what the properties in that area are going for, which left you with 45.5 in equity. And so that small rehab was about 12,000.
Yes.
Okay, and then you've had about 10,000 in closing costs. So that leaves you with a little over 22 in equity, and cash out of pocket was 22.4. Return on capital 102%. That's amazing. You rented it for $13.50 a month. And so your cash flow, that's your monthly profit after everything, is $345. That's great, giving you an 18% cash on cash return. I don't think anybody is getting that with Bitcoin and all these other crazy things that are going on, right? And this is an asset that definitely go up in value. Do you want to tell us now? Typically at Lifestyles, we advocate using leverage, right? So when I started, I didn't have enough money to buy a house cash, and most members don't. So we teach you to use leverage, different types of investor loans that you'll learn about at the 2-day that are different than your conventional loans. But tell us about this one. You said it was your 9th property. So by this time, you had some cash in the bank, right? What did you do instead of using?
Yeah, I had cash in the bank, and on this one, I had cash in the bank, and I was going to go do a hard money loan, and it was right around the holidays. And I said, you know, the heck with it. I know I'm going to get in and out fast because I'd learned that from borrowing on all the other ones. So I just paid cash for this one, and then turned around and refinanced it in January. It taught me 2 lessons, though. The first was that I saved about $2,000 by going through and doing that process. But I also missed out on 3 other deals that popped up during that time period that I didn't have the cash to get involved in. So I saved $2,000, but I lost tens of thousands because of doing that.
Got it.
The second lesson on that was that because there's some particular criteria when you're doing a loan on a refinance where you own it free and clear, you can't quite get as much money back out of it unless you wait 6 months.
Right.
I wasn't going to wait 6 months, so I couldn't get as high of a loan because I was not doing a rate term refi, like going from the hard money loan to permanent loan like we normally do.
Got it. Okay. So you bought it cash, but you realized that probably wasn't the best decision, but it's okay because you were able to refinance a couple of months later anyway, right? So
right. I just couldn't get as much money out of it as I would have been able to if I'd done a normal hard money purchase and then refinance.
But the numbers are still fantastic. I mean, absolutely fantastic. So all in all, it was a win. And I think it was still a great buy. But that's a great lesson, you know, that people can take away. I know some folks get a little bit scared when we talk about these high interest rate loans, but overall, they're temporary. And, you know, we'll cover more of that at the 2-day this weekend. But all of the properties that I've purchased, I've always used leverage. Even though I'm an advocate for Dave Ramsey, we still believe in good debt, right? It's going to make us money. Because we are buying below market value and so forth. So awesome. That's a great lesson that you learned there, and it's still turned out wonderfully. Let's see what's next on this slide. I think we've got your portfolio. So these are always my favorite slides. Had to crunch some numbers here a little bit. So, you know, everything you sent me was so detailed, and we love that. That's great. So you're closing on a duplex. If you guys could look at the bottom, you're closing, is that tomorrow? Oh, that's today.
No, it's actually been pushed off to next week. There's some title issues. Minor, but the title company's in the middle of it. So, yeah, it's pushed off.
Okay, so you were supposed to close today. You're going to close next week. That's a duplex. It's going to make you about $5,000 a year with the $57,000 equity. So we just put pending on those, but we did add it to your bottom line because you know, everything is good to go. You're just waiting on your closing date. So. Right. And then in the middle there, you can see that you sold 3 properties. We included that because you did purchase those from when you joined. And this is everything you've done since 2018 until now. I think that's fantastic. You're looking at little over 27,000 in annual cash flow. I know David Fisher likes to say tax-free, but I say tax-deferred, right? You're not having to pay into Social Security, Medicare, or anything like that. You know, that's money that you are putting in your pocket every single year. And then your equity is over 500,000. I mean, that is absolutely amazing, life-changing numbers here. And this, I mean, just looking at this, it's so inspiring on how quickly you built this, and just everything you're doing here is just so great. Um, on your properties, I forgot to ask you, are you managing these yourself, or you have someone else taking care of your residents?
I actually manage all of them with the exception of La Barca. The tenants that are in there had been in there 10 years when I bought the property. They didn't want to leave. You know, they're paying rent and they're paying at market. There's no reason to get rid of them. But I don't speak Spanish and they don't speak English. So I have a management company. I just do not feel it's a nice thing to do to somebody to make them communicate with you through their child. They've got a middle-aged son who speaks English, or excuse me, a middle school son who speaks English, but that's just not something I want to do to someone.
Okay, well, that makes sense. So you found all your tenants. So on the one that we presented today on, is it Anza?
Anza, yeah, A-N-Z-A,
Okay.
Anza.
So that one, you said it was ready in, was it December when rehab was done, or November?
First week of January, right after, it was third
Okay.
or fourth, right after the first of the year.
Okay, so that's holidays and all that crazy stuff going on. How fast did you find a resident doing it on your own?
I had a resident. I didn't start advertising it until I'd done the final walkthrough with the contractor, and I had a resident in there in less than 2 weeks. I think it was really more like a week and a half. I'd have to go back and look at the dates. And they actually found it just by the yard sign I had in it.
Wonderful.
They hadn't seen it online, although that's where it was, and there were probably 30 people vying for that house at the time.
Oh, I know. I know that, as a mentor, a lot of people all the time. And one of the concerns is, oh my gosh, my house is going to sit vacant and it's not going to make any money. I think that's a big misconception. But I just listed a house a couple of days ago. I'm getting 30, 40 calls a day, so much that I had to pause the ad because it was driving me crazy. So in Lifestyles, guys, will teach you the proper way to screen your tenants so you don't have crazy hoarders or criminals or people doing crazy things in your house. We teach you the proper way to do this if you choose to. Now, if you're the type of person that doesn't want to deal with leasing, that's how my dad is. He just wants to hire a property management, them do all the work. Either way, Lifestyles has the tools for you. But I'm like you. I like to manage my own properties because I found it to be very somewhat easy. Once we had got the steps and learned everything from Lifestyles of how to do the background check. So that's awesome. Congratulations on getting that leased so fast.
Thank you.
Let's see, what is the next slide? Okay, so you joined in 2018, and we wanted to ask, how has Lifestyles changed your life? If you never found Lifestyles, and now that you have, what has changed since that time frame? So you can kind of run through these if you'd like.
Well, a couple of things. One, it's given me a hobby because I tend to just work all the time. But I'm looking down the road at, here in probably a year and a half, 2 years, I'm done. If I don't want to get up and write a report tomorrow, I don't have to worry about it.
That's wonderful. So that's freedom that, you could just, that it's just, there's no price you can put on that freedom. Not, you can go to work, you don't have to go to work. Especially in the time that we live in today, everything is so chaotic. The shutdowns and crazy stuff going on with war. Maybe you don't want to go to work. Maybe you want to hang out and enjoy your time with your family. And I think that is so inspiring to those who are just getting started as well. And then you have in here, let's see. So you joined 2018. The first one you closed on was in April of 2019, just a few months after you joined. And then is this accurate here? You started with 40,000 cash and you grew it into 300K within the 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. And then so now you're at. Go ahead.
It's just a fun. If you can flip back, well, you don't have to flip back to slide. I've got some particular parameters that I look at. I'm more concerned with equity capture and where I think that appreciation is going to be than I got to get $400 a month out of this. I'll take 2 because I'm going to make 100% or better return on my cash investment. So it still fits the model. Everything cash flows. It's just what I want to structure and how I want to focus my efforts.
That's awesome. And that's a good point. Not all members have the same goals. Not everybody is like, oh, I want a good deal, but what a good deal for me may not be a good deal for you. We have different goals. We're in a different place financially. And I think that's why it's so important to have a mentor to help you kind of put that in stone and figure out, where you're going and what you're doing. So you're at 10 single family, which the duplex is still
No,
considered.
well, I've sold. I've sold three.
Sold
I've got
three of
6 I own right now, and then the duplex is under contract.
And then Liz, who is your better half, she's starting to invest too, right?
Right. Yeah. She's a little more wary about it than I am, and the easiest way to get her to buy one is tell her that if she doesn't buy it, I'm going to.
Okay, a little competition there. And I think, this is kind of a cool thing to share. You have a property across the street from where my father lives.
Yes, that's actually one of Liz's, yes.
That's Liz's, right? And then the one that you have in La Barca, I have a rental on La Barca. So
yeah, I think you're about a block and a half down across the street.
Yeah, so that's what's really nice about lifestyles is you connect with other members and mentors, and you may have properties on the same street. So imagine being able to share the best practices. I know we talked about the one Liz had. It's like, hey, how much are you getting in rent? And how fast did you rent it? And you kind of asked me about the neighborhood. And I think it's so awesome that we can share those experiences and those things, like I know David likes to talk about, if you had a gas station, you would never share your best practices with your competitor across the street. But at Lifestyles, that's exactly what we do. We share everything, and that's what makes us better investors. So that is wonderful.
I've had several times where I've just picked up the phone or sent a text to you or Jillian, and it's with me. It's typically, hey, when is convenient? Give me a call, and an hour later or so, I'll get that call, and we'll be on the phone for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and I'll get all my answers, and then we ignore each other for another couple of months.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. So let's see. I think the next one is who's on your team and how did you get all of this accomplished? Yes. So if you can give a shout out to some of
Greg Combs has been doing some of my leasing. He didn't do the last one, but he's been doing the leasing for me. Scotty's been doing the renovation for me more recently. And then Rich Nunez at A&P has done every single permanent loan I've done.
Oh, nice. Okay. And these are lifestyle vendors. So if you guys are looking for the contact information for these folks, you can get onto our vendor website. And if you are a Challenge or Preferred member, you get access to our amazing Lifestyles Realty team who will help you find properties. But we'll cover the details of that this weekend when you come to the 2-day. So awesome. So next slide, I think, is what is next for you? Obviously, you're not stopping. You're moving so fast.
Well, the problem is the single family's been so easy to do, and there's so much support from the organization, and they've been very lucrative for me, if you will. It's hard to make that step to go over to multifamily. It's where I need to go. I've got the assets to do it. I need to do it. It's just hard giving up those quick hits that you can do in single family. So that's the internal struggle I'm having right now.
Oh, I definitely can totally relate to that, right? I've been doing single family so long. It's just, but as I think I presented this before, it's like, I like nice, expensive things. And, that's where multifamily comes in. You can never make the money in multifamily that you can in single family. Not dogging on single family, right? It is a stepping stone to get us where we want to be. But your goal is about 1 to 2 years down the road. I think that's totally achievable with your knowledge and the team that you have built. And I think you're definitely gonna be able to do that. And I'm excited, a year or two down the road to have you present your first apartment complex. I think that'll be definitely nice to hear and very inspiring for others as well. So awesome
I just
job.
have to find it.
Yeah. All righty. So let's see. The next, I think, is we've got questions from anybody.
Yes. So I've got one good question here. So Suzanne asked, Robert, why did you choose to sell the 3 properties that you sold?
Let's see. On the first one I bought and sold was Larklair. On that one, I only had about $5,000 equity or cash I had to put into it when I bought it. I thought that particular neighborhood had kind of topped out and was going to start growing slower as far as capital appreciation. So it was time to take that money out and go do something else. On Avenida Prima, I sold that one, quite honestly, a lot sooner than I should. But the tenant and I kind of became friends when he was moving in, and he was retired Navy, retired post office, retired, never owned a house in his life. And I told him I'd talk to him after I owned it a year. And he called me up, wanted to buy it. I sold it to him. About 3 months later, I made the terrible mistake of looking up and seeing what it was worth. And it appreciated about another $30,000 after I sold it to him. Then the last one, Timber Trace, that one was never going to be a long hold, simply because the after repaired value versus rents in that neighborhood didn't make sense. Cash flow was going to be about $100 a month. And it was one where I think my total cost in it was around $205, if I remember correctly, and I sold it for, I think it was $261. So there was a big cash influx there to do that. It was always going to be a fix and flip. It's not something I like doing because giving a big chunk of it to Uncle Sam, but monetarily it made sense. Didn't have to put a lot of money in it. Made a couple 100% return. I think it's about 350% return on my cash. So it made sense to do that.
Good question.
And another question online from Cammie, and she said, Robert, how was your rehab dollars covered? Did you pay that out of pocket? Was it covered by a hard money loan, or where did that money come from?
It's kind of a combination, because the hard money loans are based on a percentage of the fixed up value, and they'll tell you about it in the 2 days. It's kind of long. It's a long story, but it just depends how the math works. If you're buying something at $50,000 and it needs $30,000 of rehab and it's worth $100,000 when you're done, they're going to give you up to 70 or 75%. You've got to come up with the rest of the cash. If it's worth a lot more when it's done, you may not have to come up with anything. But most of at least all of the hard money lenders I'm aware of, want you to have some kind of skin in the game. No matter what the percentages work out, they're still going to want you to have about 10% of the deal in there.
Absolutely. We'll cover those particulars this weekend, but just understand there are investor-friendly loans out there that will cover a large portion of your rehab, depending how good of a deal it is. So we've had members that done deals $5K out of pocket, $3K out of pocket. Just, today's market, though, is a little closer to $20, $25K out of pocket. They do want you to have some skin in the game. We don't believe in over leveraging, but yeah, we'll cover some of that the 2 day. That was a great question.
I'm going to open the floor to the room, but if you're going to ask a question, wait for me to get you so that way the folks watching online can hear. But does anybody have any questions? All right, we can move on.
Nope.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Robert. I'm excited to talk to you in a few months and see what else you have going on. I know you're a busy bee in the market, and it's always good to touch base with you. And thank you for sharing everything with the crowd tonight. And we'll hope to talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you.